I'm off to discover Jersey's peculiar beauty and those vital energies that constantly reshape it. On this journey, we've crossed the country backwards and forwards, discovering diverse landscapes and all the art that it's inspired. Sometimes it's been lush and nurturing, and other times it's been barren and bleak, but it's always been beautiful to the artists who have engaged with it. Today, we're going to investigate a landscape with a very peculiar beauty, one that almost defies description. It's one which we might call a terrible beauty, the beauty of Johannesburg. Today we are in iJozi, Johannesburg, eGoli, Gauteng, the city of gold. And what better place to start than right at a landmark that has become a shorthand symbol for the city itself, the Hillbrow Tower. No other aspect of the physical geography of Johannesburg defines it as immediately and as unmistakably as this aspect. From the photography of Guy Tillum to Kevin Brand's pixelated painting of the skyline and Carl Gittle's playful urban mythologies, the Hillbrow Tower has been used by artists to quickly and succinctly identify the skyline of South Africa's largest city. Cape Town has Table Mountain. Johannesburg has this, a majestic presence standing out like a beacon high above the city. It's been rendered again and again in countless media and has come to mean Johannesburg in a single brushstroke. Graphic designers love its elegant simplicity and use it as a convenient shorthand in the logos of countless city businesses, not to mention the official city logo. The tower took 3 years to build, from 1968 to 1971. 6 days a week, 24 hours a day, the tower went up 18 centimeters each day. Residents of Hillbrow remember hearing the songs of the labourers echo out as they hoisted the massive cables slowly up by hand. Originally built as a telephone tower, using the cutting-edge technology of the time, microwaves, the city had to ensure that it stayed above the height of the tallest building in the future. The result is 90 stories of towering concrete, a thrusting masculine symbol of Johannesburg's limitless ambition. Perhaps no other artist has used the Hillbrow skyline more frequently and effectively than David Kolwane. He's an internationally renowned artist, curator and critic, and a pioneer of urban art since the early 70s. And he seems to return over and over again to the visual motif of this landscape here. You return to it often as some kind of frame of reference. I'm just interested to know, what particular meaning does it have for you?
During the apartheid era, it was the city was out of bounds for us.
Yes.
You couldn't be in the city after 11, for instance.
Yes.
So I think what I'm doing now is a reclamation process. The fact that people have a right to be anywhere is still, for me, from that past experience, it's still something that I'm trying to understand.
You've used colors, certain kinds of colors and brush strokes.
Yeah, I think those brush strokes are actually the aggression that used to be there in the city, where you were not allowed to sit on a park bench or get onto a whites-only bus. I think it's that aggression, the remnants of that aggression, yes. One can still feel them.
So now let's change our gaze around from looking at Johannesburg's skyline to becoming part of it, because the very tall buildings give us an incredible vantage point to look over at the city itself. And from above, this is what Johannesburg looks like. A huge, endless urban sprawl that goes as far as the eye can see. About 10 million people live here. 200,000 street lights, 1,800 traffic lights, 7,500 kilometers of roads, and I could go on and on and on, but you get the idea. It's a big city, and for me, it's home. Standing so high up here and listening to the sounds of the city, it seems so peaceful. I feel like an overseer. I'm reminded of a series of images by Minette Vary called Sentinel. From the rooftops of high-rise buildings, like a gargoyle, her sentinel watches over the city, tracking its changes, watching it rise and fall, shift and grow. But we never know if these sentinels are benevolent or malevolent. But Johannesburg did not always look like this. Let's turn back the clock, not too far, say about 120 years. We are looking on the Witwatersrand just before the gold rush. There's almost nothing here. It's hard to believe that everything that we know as Johannesburg was built just in the space of 5 generations. Probably the earliest depictions of the Rand, long before it was named Johannesburg, were these 1886 pictures of the farm at Langlaagte and of Ferreira's mining camp. The discovery of gold saw people flood into the area and the landscape began changing almost immediately. That same year, one of the very first surviving sketches of Johannesburg was made by one J. Bridgman. It's an image called simply Natal Camp from Mr. Woller's house, and along with Ida May Clayton's sketch, show a very small and vulnerable camp with few built structures. But such is the allure of gold that a mere 4 years later, this is what central Johannesburg looked like. Surrounding a market square, it's a vibrant, bustling little metropolis. In the beginning, Johannesburg was just a dusty mining town with no electricity, corrugated iron shacks, no running water, and really bad sanitation. Local artists were beginning to represent this rapidly changing environment, tracking its progress from mining camp and open farmland to a landscape that was increasingly built up and ordered. Painter Frank Louis Emmanuel shows us another side to what living there must have been like in this vivid and dramatic scene of a Johannesburg dust storm. Of course, long before Europeans settled here, this region had been inhabited by the Khoisan for some thousands of years. By the mid-1750s, while the Europeans were settling down in the Cape, this area had long been settled by Tswana Sotho communities, and traces of their Iron Age settlements can be found dotted all around Johannesburg. Archaeologist Revel Mason was the first person to discover an Iron Age settlement here on the Melville Koppies, complete with a virtually intact iron smelter. And the sketch reconstructions of the site, which he supervised, are technically speaking the oldest depictions of life in Johannesburg. Hi, Revel.
Hello, Johnny. Nice to meet you
Nice
again.
to see you again. What is this here?
Johnny, this is a reconstruction of a 400-year-old African Iron Age settlement.
So the area of Johannesburg has basically been like a hub of pre-industry for some time.
Oh, yes, they were undoubtedly big-time farmers, so that this is a specialized area, the main specialized.
And the time period here is the time period
It's about the time of Columbus,
Yes.
1400s.
Yes. Do you want to show us one of the smelters?
Yes, let's have a look at those.
Did they mine iron ore? How did they get the iron
It was
ore?
shallow surface layer. They were using a softer material. It's actually produced in the soil by swampy conditions. There is one of the furnaces, and these are diagrams which we've used to explain everything, and that is typical. That is Joburg, proto-Joburg, you could say. Long-term settlement, 500 years before the gold.
That's
in effect.
fantastic. That really is breathtaking. One gets an incredibly deep sense of historic continuity because Johannesburg is the latest part of an historic recycling of communities in this area. This city is deeply rooted in our human past.
Love always finds a way.
Action.
So the qualities I'm looking for in a partner.
He has good personality. He's good looking.
Someone who accepts me for who and what I am.
Just having someone that I can be best friends with, and he treats me nice, he's patient with me.
I'll be holding my flowers.
We all want love, but finding love isn't always easy.
It's my first time ever having a date.
Hey, man, am I excited.
This series follows New Zealanders living with Down syndrome and other disabilities in their search for love.
Where my girlfriend is.
Oh.
Love
You're my gold.
is in the air. Down for Love, Fridays 9:30, SABC2.
I have had enough of this charade and all these gimmicks. It's time for some real fashion.
Okay, have I got the job for you?
In this company, they create their own rules.
All right, everyone. I've got good news. I've got bad news.
Hy fancy jy's reg. Is dit nie wat sy tik hier?
Oh, we just got a huge new contract, which means you people are going to have to work around the clock.
Step inside an industry where anything can happen.
Ooh, maar jy sou net baie oula.
Nee, kan sien.
It's a workplace where the fashion is loud and the drama even louder.
What did you say to him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, bye.
Later.
Comedy that never goes out of style. Fishy Fashions, Sundays at 8, SABC2.
All I'm asking is that you think about this. Okay? That's all I'm asking.
Johannesburg is a city of contradictions. It's commonly regarded as a friendly city, at the same time extremely dangerous. The wealthy and the poor both claim it as their home. It has a unique mixture of global culture. It's a city in schism, and this notion of division is written in a way in the landscape of the Kensington Ridge. The ridge is one of a series that comes out of the city centre from the east, and it's a watershed. Rain falling here on the northern slope will flow eastwards and eventually reach the Indian Ocean. And a drop of rain falling here on the south side will flow all the way to the Atlantic. This remarkable fact is not known by most locals. Apart from the economic potential of mining, most people in Johannesburg aren't really interested in the geological and natural life of the city. They know more about the roadways than the waterways. And perhaps this is appropriate because Johannesburg is a human construct. It's a manufactured environment. And the art of Johannesburg has always been the art of the man-made. The terrible beauty of Johannesburg's concrete jungle has provided rich inspiration for generations of artists like painter Herman Niebuhr. His paintings contemplate the scale of the city from the widest, most grandiose views down to accessible street level. In his work, the city is almost always painted as empty. Even in his series of interior inner city landscapes called Night Shift, the foyers he paints are deserted, as are the chairs on which the night shift security guard would usually be sitting. Another artist who is passionate about exploring the urban environment is Stephen Hobbs, who uses architectural reflections in a series of photographs taken in 1999 called The Mirage City. The geometric forms of the high-rise architecture are reflected and distorted by the windows of opposing buildings. When the human form is revealed, it is in the distance, viewed with detachment from a godlike perspective. Photographer Guy Tillum in his 2004 series Joburg offers us a bleak vision of the harsh, inhospitable spaces of the inner city, the high-rise and apartment buildings which were neglected and largely abandoned during the early 1990s. Within these austere, desolate places where cold concrete and decay dominate, Tillum subtly embeds quiet human elements. Perhaps the reason why so many artists choose to render the city almost empty is that to strip away the day-to-day hustle and bustle is to offer the viewer a fresh take on the city. Johannesburg is a city of people. It's the people who give it its life force, its energy, the sounds and the smells and the sights that you associate with it. It's the people who give it life. This sense of hustle and bustle is evident in the work of collage artist Vusi Mfupi. His massive, bustling images conjure up the real Johannesburg, this Johannesburg. It's the one that's experienced by millions of South Africans every day. Johannesburg is a city of immigrants and migrants, and perhaps the best way to view the city is through the eyes of an outsider. Senzeni Marosela's Theodora Comes to Johannesburg is a series of photographs in which the artist enacts her mother arriving in Johannesburg. And we're going to have a little chat with her. Sawubona. Asambe sokhuluma kancane. Yebo.
My own mother arrived here in Johannesburg in 1967.
Yes.
After she had married my father. Because my father refused to leave her behind. Which was the experience of many women.
Right.
Their husbands left them behind in the rural areas.
Yes.
When I created the work Theodora Comes to Joburg in 2004, I was looking at my mother's story and trying to retrace whatever it is that she could remember about coming to Joburg.
Yes.
And look at very important landmarks in Joburg. Places where dreams die.
Yes.
So now I decided to take one of her dresses, which she didn't want anymore. She wanted to discard. And I thought I could wear this and begin my own exploration of Johannesburg.
So you were enacting her. You are the one that's in the picture, not your mother.
No, it's not her. It's me
you.
In my mother's dress, in my mother's shoes,
okay.
And in a headscarf.
Okay. When we look at the photograph, the yellow color stands out. It's distanced from that sort of grey-brown environment. There seems to be a separation. What does that mean for you?
I think I decided to make my persona, Theodora, stand out because she's a new person in this Johannesburg. Okay. So she feels lonely, and she doesn't feel that she's a this place, so she feels quite alienated. She feels like an alien.
Which is the terrible aspect
yes.
of Johannesburg's...
Yes. Of this beautiful place.
Beautiful place.
It's certainly an ongoing work, So I'm hoping to begin to integrate into the city. And kind of end this alienation.
Yes.
Because I think it's important that everyone finds a place in Joburg and owns Joburg.
The concrete jungle has been represented by a diversity of artists with their own interpretations and experiences of the city. But there's an altogether more surprising man-made landscape over here. Just a few minutes from the concrete jungle, you enter the urban forest. Ostensibly the most natural part of the Johannesburg environment, the leafy that covers the surrounding suburbs is in fact also a human construction. This majestic urban forest in fact started life as a timber plantation to provide stays, wooden stays, for the mining industry. In 1890, 2 million trees were planted here, changing this entire area of Saxonwold into the largest urban forest in the world. Like the jacaranda, these were imported species which grew rapidly in the Highveld climate, and today the number of trees is estimated at over 8 million. They've had an enormous effect on the region, even altering the microclimate. The change to the environment is so profound that seen from space, satellite software identifies the area not as Highveld scrubland, but tropical rainforest. Side by side, intertwined, embodying two worlds, two cultures, two spirits, the concrete jungle and the urban forest has left its mark on the way art has been produced in the city. The gardens and leafy canopy of Johannesburg holds a special secret for me because it was here that I met, as a young teenager, my partner in Juluga. He was a gardener some 500 meters from here, and he went on to become an international recording star and performer. And it's quite extraordinary how gardeners have contributed to the cultural life of Johannesburg. Here on my left we have the Brenthurst estate owned by the Oppenheimers, and their gardener, Clifford Mpai, became an outstanding landscape artist, and he painted this estate behind me, and his work forms part of major South African collections. More than 20 years before him, artist Moses Tladi, who has been hailed as the first black South African landscape artist and the first black South African artist to have his work exhibited at the South African National Gallery, was also a gardener by profession. He was employed by mining businessman and arts patron Herbert Reed at Loxhoek, the Reed's estate in Parktown, and amongst the many environments he painted were the gardens he tended at Loxhoek. He also painted the Highveld, its storms, trees and waterways. Tladi painted largely in an impressionistic style, using short brush strokes and a gentle palette imbued with a luminous quality of light. Right here on the Braamfontein Spruit in Craighall, Moses Tladi must have sat and painted. He was another gardener who became an artist and found a way to straddle two worlds. And what is Johannesburg if it isn't about bringing different worlds together?
They said he couldn't run until he ran faster than doubt itself. She turned every limitation into liberation, one serve at a time.
The US Open win marks Manjane's second Grand Slam title of the year, adding to her victory in June at the Roland Garros.
Together, they proved that vision goes far beyond sight.
Rosanne Kurtia of South Africa has moved out to the front.
She carried a nation's pride and showed that inclusion is championship.
But it is South Africa's Arune Bayers who's going to take the win.
At SABC Sport, we don't just tell your stories. We see you. We celebrate you. We stand with you.
Love always finds a way.
Action.
So the qualities I'm looking for in a partner:
He has good personality. He's good looking.
Someone who accepts me for who and what I am.
Just having someone that I can be best friends with, and he treats me nice, he's patient with me.
I'll be holding my flowers.
We all want love, but finding love isn't always easy.
It's my first time ever have a date.
Man, am I excited.
This series follows New Zealanders living with Down syndrome and other disabilities in their search for love.
Where my girlfriend is.
Oh. Love.
You're my dog.
Is in the air. Down for Love. Fridays 9:30, SABC2.
Johannesburg and its people have never been sentimental about ripping things down. Historical significance takes a remote second place to the immediate usefulness of any space. Joburg is proud of its ability to get things done. At this very moment, there is a fundamental transformation taking place across the landscape as the Gautrain cuts a swathe right through the city. And I'm standing here at a depot where you can find literally thousands of precast concrete U-beams which are going to be put together like a big giant Lego for the Gautrain's viaduct. And this is what it looks like when it's done. There's nothing modest about the ambition of this project. It's extreme geoengineering, totally changing the entire landscape around us. The idea of large-scale environmental engineering has its roots as far back as 1904, when under the pretext of stalling an outbreak of bubonic plague, the shanty town known as Brickfields was cordoned off and burnt to the ground. Historians question whether the reason given for this was really just a cynical justification to get rid of a low-income area on the edge of the white-designated suburbs, making this the first forced removal of people in Johannesburg. The photographic record informs us how from the ashes a new town was created, known today simply as Newtown. This area of Newtown holds a very special significance for me because it is here at the Market Theatre that the debut performances of Juluka and Savuka took place. In 1979, Sipho Mkhulu and myself put on our first debut concert at the Market Theatre. We were mixing traditional Zulu Maskanda music with European folk rock, but not only mixing the music, we were mixing melodies and rhythms, we were mixing languages in the same song. It was a very, very nerve-wracking debut concert because nobody had ever seen anything like it before. Newtown celebrates the creativity of the city, and the streets here are named for some of our greatest musicians, artists and dancers. Standing here on the corner of Miriam Makeba Street, it's all too easy to forget that as recently as 2001, once again, this area became a site of conflict between poor people and the powers that be. Andrew Chabangu's city squatter image serves as a stark reminder of the conditions that had been allowed to develop here. But it is the recording of the performance piece Chandelier by one of South Africa's most fearless artists, Stephen Cohen, that provides an emotional record. Describing the work as a public intervention by the artist as a living chandelier, Cohen arrived at exactly the same time as the notorious Red Ants, the private security employees now associated with forced evictions, who proceeded to dismantle the settlement around him. In a world where whole neighborhoods could be systematically annihilated and communal memories erased, art became a vital means of preserving our memory of the city. One of the most devastating forced removals took place here in Sophiatown. Artists like John Moll help us form a picture of the original neighborhood as it was before the bulldozers arrived in 1955. But when Gerard Sikoto painted yellow houses in 1940, he could have had no idea how important that image would become to a later generation struggling to make sense of the devastation. Or that 50 years later, his work could be used as the basis for a mural at Christ the King's Anglican Church in the suburb cynically renamed Triumph. But little can rival the immediate and visceral power of photography to document a tragedy on this scale, and the photographs taken at the time have left the most searing record of the tragedy of Sophiatown. Of course, if there is an artist from the city who understands and utilizes the power of erasure, it must be one of South Africa's most acclaimed artists, William Kentridge. In his animated film Johannesburg, the second greatest city after Paris, Kentridge used a technique of drawing, erasure and altering to produce a stop-frame animation. This process of erasing all but the last drawing in the sequence of work means that not only does Kentridge deal with the notion of forgetting, but the way in which he creates the work leaves only a shadowy remnant of its former self.
Technique. It has to do with not so much making thousands of different drawings, but making a few drawings, but making many alterations and erasures in each drawing. So that a drawing is made, it's filmed, the drawing is altered, the same drawing is altered, it's refilmed, re-altered. So it's a walk between the camera and the drawing the whole way through. So that the final image on the sheet of paper is the last frame of each sequence of the film. For me, it's always been interesting how the landscape around Johannesburg builds into itself a sense of forgetting. So you have a site in which there's been some disaster, either a natural disaster or a massacre, but 30 years later there's very little left of it. You have to hunt for traces.
Yes.
So you go to a place where there was a massacre, the only hope of seeing it in the landscape is if someone's built a little memorial,
Plaque, yeah.
if there's a plaque. Otherwise nature itself has obliterated it. Or there are faint traces. You can see the edges of a shower block in an old mine compound. But otherwise there's wattle and blue gum and things like that. And in the same way our memory obliterates things, thank God. I mean, it's both what it is to be
Strength
alive,
and weakness, yeah.
both, because we both lose things that we wish we could hold on to, but we also know we couldn't hold on to everything.
Of course, you don't need a bulldozer to completely change a neighborhood. Areas like Yeoville and Hillbrow are excellent examples of how the city changes when new communities move in, claim it, and put it to different kinds of uses. Hillbrow and Yeoville have become immigrant spaces. This is where Africa lands when it comes to town. A comparison of photographs from the 1970s and from the late 90s show just how absolute the transformation of Hillbrow has been. Over a course of just 20 years, the heart of the inner city has changed completely. It is a totally different place now to what it was then, and yet nothing was torn down and nothing was rebuilt. Considered to be one of the fastest rising talents in contemporary African art, Kudzanai Chiurai has shown his work all over the world, but never in his home country, Zimbabwe. What is it about Johannesburg you think captures your imagination or inspires you?
What is interesting about Joburg is that it's a place for people in transit. It's like the place where you go between point A and C, and Joburg is B. It's a transitory space. Looking at an individual that moves through that system, like he carries his own identity, his own culture, his own beliefs, his own desires, and like he moves through the city in that way, so he brings that with him. I think that's what's so interesting about Joburg. The difference between two spaces is marked by the difference in culture. So you would have an area that's mostly Ghanaians, and a street after that is a space where I think there are Ethiopians that have a small little restaurant there. So also within the city there are other micro cities that do exist. There are ideas in the city that are interesting. There's a fluidness that's interesting. There's a noise and energy that's interesting.
This idea of the fluidity and flexibility of the city, of old buildings put to new uses, also inspired Nadine Hutton's Night Watch Zion, a series of stop-frame stolen pictures of Zionists worshipping in an empty inner city school. 12 hours of praise, spinning, chanting and whirling, steaming up the windows until the sun comes up.
I, Luke, send a message to all those that follow our Lord Jesus Christ. There is a terrible evil in the world. Darkness is spreading. I know you are suffering persecution. Faith is being tested. I know you question the way. But I've come to Rome to find Paul, to write his story, to bring hope, to bring light into this present darkness, and to remind us all how God changed a hateful man who will change the history of the world.
Luke, am I dreaming?
The day I heard you preach, my God, I saw Christ in you. This world doesn't know a thing about love.
Easter Sunday, 5 April, SABC 2.
Where sin abounds, grace abounds more.
Paul, Apostle of Christ.
They said he couldn't run until he ran faster than doubt itself. She turned every limitation into liberation, one serve at a time.
The US Open win marks Mojane's second Grand Slam title of the year, adding to her victory in June at the Roland Garros.
Together, they proved that vision goes far beyond sight.
Rosanne Kurtia of South Africa has moved out to the front.
She carried a nation's pride and showed that inclusion is championship.
but it is South Africa's Arune Bayers who's going to take the win.
At SABC Sport, we don't just tell your stories. We see you. We celebrate you. We stand with you.
Johannesburg is not just a city centre, it's a living organism. And like all organisms, it needs to grow. Some cities grow upwards, others become more dense. Johannesburg spreads out like an amoeba. This is the Galilee's interchange, and it's growing. Joburg is a city on the move, and transport is vital. Trains, taxis, freeways, and as we spend more of our working and conscious time in the traffic, the process of commuting itself has begun to inspire art. Mary Wafer explores the stark geometric beauty of the freeway system in her series of paintings that celebrate the sweeping arcs of flyovers and underpasses, empty of cars. They are reminiscent of Andrew Mankey's photograph of the same subject, where the distant skyline is totally dwarfed by the majestic sweep of the bridge in the foreground. Because where people choose or are forced to live is a key political issue, the method, cost and dangers of moving between home and work is inevitably politicized. Duke Ketier's work, The Plight of Soweto Commuters, from the 1980s, gives us an insight into the dangers that public transport often held. Arlene Amala Raviv and Dale Udelman express the image of the worker graphically in their photo collage Joburg Man. It celebrates the stature of the working man, showing a contemporary worker striding up the street of 19th century Johannesburg. We're approaching the sprawling edge of Johannesburg, the urban periphery. To the south it's Soweto, Southwestern Township as it was imaginatively named. It's the most cosmopolitan township in South Africa, setting trends in politics, fashion, music, dance and language. The artistic representation of Soweto has a long history, with work by artists like Ephraim Ngatane picturing the slums of the shantytown as it was in the 1960s. Images like these became a powerful and influential way of depicting and imagining Ekasi. But one can't talk about the art of Soweto without mentioning Durant Sihlali, perhaps one of the most important artists of his generation, and another artist who used a unique medium, and that is of watercolors. Not an ideal tool, one would think, to depict the harsh realities of apartheid townships. But the thing is, watercolors are accessible and affordable. Secondly, they are compact and you can carry them around. But most importantly, they dry quickly. Sihlali was a depictor of his environment. He recorded the daily changes of his world as he walked around with his brushes and his paint box. And it was this that enabled him to capture with heartbreaking clarity the arrival of the bulldozers in Pimville. He describes it like this. He ordered the man with the bulldozer to do the job. There was no time for me to even prepare a sketch. It was a race against time. I just exploded with my brushes on the surface of the paper. By the time the bulldozer had finished, only the dust was blowing out. He came by to get a glimpse of what I was doing. To his amazement, the painting was already finished. He scoffed and walked away. I enjoyed this because I knew I had won. But these were not happy days. This ability to immediately paint snapshots of events flowing around you foreshadows what is to come. And it is that the most vital representations of Soweto remain to this day the photographic image. At the time of the student uprisings in 1976, photographers defined the area in popular consciousness with their stark black and white images of school kids braving the guns of apartheid. But it is this devastating image taken by Sam Nzima of the body of Hector Peterson, the first victim of the police shootings, and now enshrined in his memorial museum. that established the outrage of Soweto in the minds of newsreaders all around the world. Since then, photography has remained at the core of Soweto's sense of itself, with images like Santu Mofokeng's strikingly bleak landscape, with its huge washing powder ad continuing to define the area as a wasteland of unrealized opportunities and broken dreams. But with the coming of democracy, there has been a crucial shift in the way photographers have depicted the area. Photographs by Tiro Ramatlatse shows us rural living right next to high-tech construction and urban development. We've just left Soweto with its taxi ranks and spaza shops and RDP houses, and we're now in the north. And we can see immediately these closed clusters and security estates with their high walls and security fences, cameras, boomed off roads and rapid armed response vehicles touring around. This is because of the high rate of crime, and technically it's in line with global trends. However, in Johannesburg it's more extreme. This is because we've just surpassed Brazil in the gap between the rich and the poor. And of course, the bigger the gap, the higher the wall. Underpinned by fear, the governing ethos of the Great North, the ever-expanding sprawl of middle-class Johannesburg is its desire for security. And artist Kendall Gears examines this in a series of images simply called Suburbia. The work raises the issue of people protecting themselves by creating jails in which they willingly sentence themselves to a lifetime of imprisonment and call it freedom. When Mokka van Vieren and Teresa Collins turn the revealing eye of their time-lapse camera on the northern suburbs, we are forced to confront the stark artificiality of this environment. Listen carefully and you will hear the shrill edge of paranoia in the voices of locals confronting the artists about shooting there.
You're trying to be difficult. You're just trying to be difficult, but then you're going to come short. Every stage is I will not
But it's the satirical bitter comics originator, Anton Kannemeyer, who cuts to the core with his series of images called N is for Nightmare. Anton, you're the only artist that I know of who has made images of cluster homes.
It's actually part of a bigger series that I'm doing called The Alphabet of Democracy. And then I focused on this one aspect called N is for Nightmare, which was looking at what it is that white people are afraid of. It basically depicts cluster houses and very expensive houses, and the fact that people are afraid and hiding behind security and so forth. And then those images are juxtaposed with images of a stereotypical black depiction, you know, like you would find in the 1930s comics or earlier even. And those are what those white people are fearing. You know, they're fearing something which actually doesn't really exist. It's a stereotype from, you know, it's the zwart gevaar.
Die zwart gevaar.
But that's my sort of attack, is a full frontal kind of attack.
Correct.
I show it and I want people to react, to say, hey, it's racist, you know, but then to hopefully see the satire in the work.
Anton, let me buy you a cup of coffee. Come.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to coffee because.
A pop sensibility dominates commercial photographer Kevin Factor's vivid, digitally enhanced photographic print of the skyline of Sandton, the city's other CBD. Tellingly, his work shows the skyline from afar, and he makes no comment, no attempt to engage the viewer on a human scale, perhaps suggesting that this is a place better viewed from a distance. Because at street level, the issue of security dominates the way in which the landscape is being shaped and gives it a very different feel, one which is far from glistening. This billboard says it all. This wall is 27 kilometers long and 4 meters high. The impact of crime is shaping space. In the less affluent areas of the townships and suburbs, there are different strategies. You will find razor wire, burglar bars, dogs, community policing forums, and the informal sharing of information. For the more affluent, however, we have a new offering on the marketplace. It's the hermetically sealed, gated city. It's the pinnacle of the dream of cocooning.
I, Luke, send a message to all those that follow our Lord Jesus Christ. There is a terrible evil in the world. Darkness is spreading. I know you are suffering persecution. Faith is being tested. I know you question the way. But I've come to Rome to find Paul, to write his story, to bring hope, to bring light into this present darkness, and to remind us all how God changed a hateful man who will change the history of the world.
Luke, am I dreaming?
The day I heard you preach, my God, I saw Christ in you. This world doesn't know a thing about love.
Easter Sunday, 5 April, SABC2.
Where sin abounds, grace abounds more.
Paul, Apostle of Christ.
Love always finds a way.
Action.
So the qualities I'm looking for in a partner.
He has good personality. He's good looking.
Someone who accepts me for who and what I am.
Just having someone that I can be best friends with, and he treats me nice, he's patient with me.
I'll be holding my flowers.
We all want love, but finding love isn't always easy.
That's my first time ever have a date.
Man, am I excited.
This series follows New Zealanders living with Down syndrome and other disabilities in their search for love.
Where my girlfriend is.
Oh. Love
You're my dog.
Is in the air. Down for Love. Fridays 9:30, SABC2.
I have had enough of this charade and all these gimmicks. It's time for some real fashion.
Okay, have I got the job for you?
In this company, they create their own rules.
All right, everyone, I've got good news, I've got bad news.
Hi, Patsy, jy's reg. Besef jy wat se tik hier?
Oh, we just got a huge new contract, which means you people are going to have to work around the clock.
Step inside an industry where anything can happen.
Ooh, maar jy sou net baie oula.
Nee, kassie.
It's a workplace where the fashion is loud and the drama is louder.
What did you say to him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, bye.
Later.
Comedy that never goes out of style. Fishy Fashions, Sundays at 8, SABC2.
All I'm asking is that you think about this. Okay, that's all I'm asking.
Over the past 120 years, thousands of artists have strived to share with us their interpretation of what the terrible beauty of Johannesburg means to them. But recently, however, there's been a shift. Instead of making art about the landscape, Josie artists are making art in the landscape. This is the work of Clive van den Berg. It's called Commuter. Stands about 4.5 meters high, and it's on the eastern side of the Baragwanath taxi rank. Thousands of commuters pass through here every day to Johannesburg Central and back again. And it's here at the rank that you can find the work of some of Johannesburg's top artists. All along the top here we find Marco Cianfratelli. Just opposite is Cooper. Up at the top there, Gordon Froud. These public works of art have been commissioned by the JDA, the Johannesburg Development Agency, and hundreds of them have popped up all over the place in Johannesburg over the past 10 years. So many, in fact, that the JDA commissioned a map of public art, and I have a copy right here. Oh, hola. Johnny. Ah, no, just go. I've disembarked here at Johannesburg's central hub, the Metro Mall. If you thought Baragwanath was busy, think again. About 150,000 people pass through here each day. It cost 100 million rand to build, and it has 3 levels and can deal with up to 3,000 vehicles at any one time. It has a traders market, retail market, and of course, lots and lots of public art. Artist Stephen Hobbs has spent most of his professional life creating artworks which interact with the city of Johannesburg. Through his public art initiative with Marcus Neustetter, called the Trinity Session, he's been as the curator of Johannesburg. So Stephen, what's happened? Because suddenly Joburg is bristling with art.
The proliferation of art around the city, frankly, is the result of a couple of individuals at city level who are passionate about the identity and culture of this environment and realize that a critical layer to add to this often seemingly hostile and fearful environment is in fact the softening part which comes in art.
So when we talk about public art, which public are we referring to?
The William Kentridge sculpture that we're approaching right now is positioned so strategically at one of the most kind of critical taxi ranks on the southern side of the city. And so you have a natural flow of audience, if you will. Right. And the question is, to what extent does an artwork like this engage with, enhance, improve, etc., the lives of those individuals? Well, on the one hand, you might argue that it doesn't at all. Right. But you could say that if you're thinking about history and memory and so on, which are very important to our culture and our society in South Africa, the celebration and acknowledging of the women that used to prepare braziers here and take them out into the city to then have them set up for braaiing millies through the course of the day is a form of hailing and valorizing a very itinerant kind of practice.
So Stephen, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at Firewalker by William Kentridge and Gerard Marx.
It's like a perspective piece, right?
The inherent movement in the piece is created by the assembly of different picture planes, if you will. Yeah. So when you're coming down the Queen Elizabeth Bridge, at certain points it's very abstract, and as you get closer to it and you align yourself with it, it starts to assemble itself and become legible.
I've heard that the bus rapid transit system has got an art aspect to it. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, absolutely. If we move down in this direction, we can start to have a look at one of the works that myself and Mark...
I'm heading across town to hook up with the future of Josie's transport, bus rapid transit or Rea Vaya. The BRT system has 24 inner city stations, and Johannesburg has commissioned a unique artwork for each one.
Basically, the site is a particularly intense, really diverse and dense part of the inner city. And I'm particularly interested in the buildings directly opposite the BRT. And if you look at the artwork itself, it's a portrait of the cityscape, if you will.
How many artists actually got involved in this in the end?
You're looking at something like over 100 artworks being commissioned. So it was a perfect opportunity to actually work with emerging and unknown artists. They're complete unknown guys who are now standing next to their stations in Soweto looking at a permanent work of art that they can in a way use as a calling card. Okay. And it's a sort of step up in the direction of their careers, which is great for all of us.
I think I'm going to hop onto one of these buses and see what it's like. Okay, I'm here. And I'm told that at the next stop, I'm going to see artworks by Prophet DJ, and after that, Mbongeni Buthelezi. One thing's for sure, Joburg artists have been busy. It never stops. Seems like they're constantly trying to define and redefine the city and try and understand its hard, tough beauty. One last thing. Just over there is where Sue Williamson and a number of young other artists took 3 photographs and stitched them together into an artwork, which poses the question, if Johannesburg means Johannes se burg, then we have to ask, wie is Johannes? Who is this Johannes? And the short answer is that we don't really know. But what we do know is that in 1882, the gold commissioner, Carl van Brondus, came down from Pretoria to Johannesburg to proclaim the city. And in a freak storm in the night, his tent was blown away, together with all the documents from the Surveyor General explaining who the city had to be named after and why. Perhaps the fact that subsequently nobody bothered to find out, and that people living in the city don't really mind living in a place named after nobody in particular, gives us a clue to the enigmatic character of a city that's constantly changing.
Hear them sing in the street now. Hear the sound of marching feet now. Sfonum Sevens, work for all. We need to work to be Sfonum Sevens. There's a jobless army in the streets. Sfonum Sevens. In a wage-hidden war. Sfonum Sevens. There's a jobless army at my door. Sfonum Sevens.
Music Awards 2026.
The nominees for Best R&B Song: Lord Kes, Aware. Naledi Apiwe and Mawelele, Kamduze. Loyiso, High Higher. Mavuso, Dangerous.
So dangerous, so dangerous.
Una Rams, Priceless Possession.
There's nobody in the world that could give me what we have. The winner is...
To vote, dial *120 *45787 hash. USSD rates charged at $1.50 per minute.
Who do you think?
Metro FM. It's where you want to be. T's and C's apply.
I have had enough of this charade and all these gimmicks. It's time for some real fashion.
Okay. Have I got the job for you?
In this company, they create their own rules.
All right, everyone. I've got good news. I've got bad news.
Hi, Patsy. Mr. Fisher, what's up here?
Oh, we just got a huge new contract, which means you people are going to have to work around the clock.
Step inside an industry where anything can happen.
Ooh, my solar bye. Hola.
It's a workplace where the fashion is loud and the drama even louder.
What did you say to him?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, bye.
Later.
Comedy that never goes out of style. Fishy Fashions, Sundays at 8, SABC2.
All I'm asking is that you think about this. Okay? That's all I'm asking.
Good morning, grade 3s. A 2D, two-dimensional shape is a flat shape. 2D shapes do not have any thickness. 2D shapes can be described, sorted, and compared by looking at the features, properties of the shape. Features, properties of 2D shapes are if the sides are round or straight. Let's have a look at the features, properties of some 2D shapes. Let's look at a 2D shape with round sides. Here is a circle. The circle has a round side. Circles can be of different sizes.